I first met our speaker over a decade ago when we first entered the Ho'ala Huna training in Ohana that met here at the fellowship for a couple of years back in the early 2000s. And when I first met Karie, she struck me as being very shy and quiet. But little did I know over the years that she would come to be the most fearless, courageous person, maybe not the most, but one of the most fearless, courageous persons I've ever known. Her trust in the divine to take care of her and all of her beloveds in any situation is just so solid. And I'm inspired by her faith and her trust and her courage and her passion and her inspiration, her kindness, her love for animals, her love for people, her unconditional love. We've had the joy of seeing the best and worst in each other, and she's my good friend, and I introduce Karie Alton. I can't wait to hear what she has for us today. Karie?
Good morning. Aloha.
Aloha.
I have to remember to breathe. Okay, my first transient this morning. I would like to start with a Ho'ala Huna prayer. If you will indulge me for a moment, there's a certain way that we, ancient Hawaiians, would pray, and the way that we would do this is we would use the term Akua, which is the term for God, which means all that is, and all of the ancestors. So I love that term Akua because it doesn't have all the stuff attached to it that the word God does. And at the end of the prayer, what we do is the women say Haye, and the men go Aho. And so at the end of the prayer, I will say Haye, and then all of the women will go. Women say Haye, Haye. The men will go Aho, Aho. And then we breathe. Because the Hawaiians were big on breath. That's the source of life, is breath. Okay. O Wamakua, Mother, Father, God, Spirit of the all that is, we thank you for this beautiful day, this opportunity to come together and bask in your sweet spirit of love. We ask that you help us to embrace the spirit of humility, the ability to be flexible in perspective, so that we can be open to the insights and wisdom that you would like to share with us today. We ask that you help us to be firmly grounded in our divinity, our integrity, and our loving service. Help us to be open to your guidance, wisdom, and love, so that we can be of the highest and best loving service that we can be to all of those to whom you would have us serve. We ask a blessing on our day, on this place, and our fellowship family, our community, and all those who are ready and willing to wake up and contribute to peace and balance in the world. And we ask this humbly, mindful of our divinity, and in the spirit of unconditional love, the spirit of aloha. Haye.
Haye. Aho.
Okay, thank you. First, I just wanted to mention that everything this morning is so perfect, and it wasn't just what you said that made me cry. Everything is just so perfect. It's really touching my heart. But the ideas I'm going to present you with today may seem at first blush contradictory to other spiritual teachings that you may have heard, but really they're not. If you just look a little deeper, keep an open mind, you'll see that truly all sacred spiritual teachings that reveal reality with a capital R really is the same. I think a lot of us who've been on the spiritual path for many years can know that. My spiritual teacher, Lonnie, once told me, Karie, it's time for you to own your wisdom. And by that she meant that it's time, because there comes a time when you don't stop being a student, because I think we're all always students, but there comes a time when you also teach and pass on what you've learned. There's always people that I will continue to learn from, and people who know less than I that I will pass on, and I think it's always like that for everyone. The title of my talk today is Malu, Akua-Energy as the Utility of Life. And this is sort of as a nod to my day job as a utility locator. Malu and Akua are Hawaiian words of the two different types of energy in the world. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Utility means usefulness. And I realized that what I do as an underground utility locator, I do have a utility locator friend here, here today, can be seen as an analogy to what I do as a kahuna. See, a utility locator, what I do is I use my tools, my transmitter and receiver, to find something that can't be seen and then mark it with paint so that it can be seen by others. It occurred to me one day that that's exactly what I do as a spiritual teacher. I show people energy so they can see it, and how tools can be used to see and understand and use energy in their own life. In other words, it makes what's real with a capital R much more clear and visible. So I've had just a little background, I've had a relationship with the fellowship for some 35 years now, and I am very humbled and honored to be able to finally offer something back. I have to say that I feel so blessed to be one of the ones who were able to learn directly from Paul Solomon. And after that initial exposure, at the tender age of 20, having been raised in a very bland Methodist tradition, and then the hellfire and brimstone, get saved or else philosophy of fundamentalist Christian high school that I went to, it was really a breath of fresh air to hear this very psychic, trance-reading, ex-fundamentalist Christian minister talk about a much bigger picture. It really blew me away, and I subsequently went to every service, workshop, class, whatever I could to find out more. So fast forward, 2 marriages, 2 kids, and a great deal of personal and family drama later, I found myself right here one afternoon, sitting in front of an altar, and I didn't have a chance to set it up, but it will be set up later, a Ho'ala Huna altar, with a small group of people, and 2 of them, of which he said they were kahunas. And the experiences that day shifted my life forever. And it's sort of like one of those times in your life where you feel like it divided everything before and after that one particular event. Well, the thing that struck me was that it took all the incredible things that I learned before, not only from Paul Solomon, but also, the wonderful spiritual teachers like Eckhart Tolle, Louise Hay, Marianne Williamson, Gary Zukav, Deepak Chopra. I studied them all. Donald Walsh, many others, and added to what they taught and built upon it to an even deeper level of perspective. And what's really amazing about this system of wisdom, is what we call it, that's called Ho'ala Huna, came from a civilization of people who lived before Christ. This is the ancient Hawaiians who practiced these principles lived from around 750 BC to 1250 AD until the Tahitians showed up there and committed genocide and virtually wiped out all the high priests and their families and let live those only who would renounce Huna, because this is their whole society was based on these principles. It was the way they lived. But when the elite Tahitians came, they put a stop to all of that. They took them up because these people didn't live with have any armies or police. They didn't have much in the way of crime. It was just probably one of the most enlightened societies ever to live on the face of the earth, because they had these principles that they used to bring balance. So it worked for them until the Tahitians came. But it was said that some of the high priests were able to escape to Kauai because it was so far away, and whenever they tried to go there would be this mysterious storm would show up and prevent their boats from rising. So it was able to, this wisdom of Ho'ala Huna was able to survive all of these years, and now here I am telling you about it. So that's kind of a miracle. Ho'ala Huna translates as Ho'ala, that which causes an awakening to, and Huna, the secret or sacred knowledge of that which is real, or the nature of reality, the capital R. Huna is basically a perspective, a set of principles, and a practice. The most fundamental principle from which the rest of them flow is the only definition for God that can make any sense is that God is all that is. So with that being the foundation, then as it flows, everything, everyone, including you and I, in all parts of our lives, are all a part of the all that is. And in fact, one of the principles, belief is only required for that which is not real. For that which is real can be recognized, and it works reliably and flawlessly. If you think about it, what's real doesn't need to be believed, does it? My spiritual teacher, Malu, had a beautiful illustration for this that I love to share. It's like one of those things that, if I was to have a relationship with Jerry and I treat him with dignity and respect, you're going to have a much better relationship than if I just treat him as an object. So it's not something you have to believe, right? That's something you can understand from your core self, your true self, your authentic self, whatever word you want to use. I like to use the word divinity, in your divinity. Okay, so another principle is spirit is the blueprint for form. Just like he was saying, who was it who talked about? Everything starts somewhere, and so everything starts with a thought. In the world of spirit, is how the ancient Hawaiians looked at it. It's like one of those famous unanswerable questions that they always ask, where do we come from, where are we all going? Well, the ancient Hawaiians had a perspective of Huna and had a very practical answer to that question. They called it the world of spirit. They would say, and the ancient Hawaiians would also say, the gods thirst for meaning and expression. The gods meaning all of us. So why then, so here we are in the world of form, having all those experiences and wondering, what does it all mean? Why do bad things happen? This is where the ancient Hawaiians saw life in terms of energy. The way they saw it, there is no good, bad, right, wrong, fair, unfair. There's only life-giving and life-taking energy. Akua are the life-giving energies. Malu are the life-taking energies. And Akua, the life-giving energies, are reflective of our divine nature. Has anybody heard of Nikola Tesla? You know about Tesla? Okay, he is the famous scientist, like Thomas Edison, who discovered many amazing things with electricity. Well, he said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Indeed, isn't it a scientific fact that everything that exists is made up of energy? Cells are made up of molecules, molecules are made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of protons, electrons, and neutrons, right? All of these things are moving very, very fast. So there really isn't any such thing as solid, scientifically speaking anyway, okay? In Huna, we say spirit is a blueprint for form, so everything starts somewhere. So for the purpose of the basic foundation, allow me to grossly oversimplify an explanation of the world of form. Imagine for a moment that all it is starts out as pure consciousness, and pure consciousness loves itself. Therefore, it wants to find more ways to love itself. Because it wants to find more ways to love itself, it creates. Out of creation comes the world of form, and from the world of form comes diversity. But in order for there to be diversity, there needs to be contrast. And in order for there to be contrast, there needs to be opposites. So we start with life-giving energy that creates. And then we have, as a part of the world of form, for the purpose of contrast, life-taking energy. Something that serves the purpose of opposite, so that life-giving energy can have more meaning and expression. Does that make sense? Okay. I told you it was over something. Okay. So what would you consider to be life-giving energies? Okay, this is the interactive part. Y'all are going to help me here. Oh, like love? Okay, the most obvious.
Sunlight.
Sunlight, okay. Life-giving energies. Gratitude. Absolutely. Joy.
Peace.
Peace.
Mother to a child.
Pardon?
Mother to the child.
Mother to a child, absolutely. Integrity, yes.
Compassion.
Compassion,
Harmony.
harmony,
Appreciation.
appreciation. I like that one.
Laughter.
Laughter,
Gratitude.
gratitude. Pardon?
Desire.
Desire,
Patience.
patience. Glad you said that one.
Service.
Service,
Flexibility.
flexibility, respect. Absolutely. Any more?
Honor.
Honor,
Patience.
patience,
Happiness.
happiness. Okay, that's great. In other words, all the energies that are positive, life-affirming, reflective of divinity, all that is the spirit that created the world of form. So this is the definition. Okay, so now can we name some life-taking energies?
Anger.
Anger. Good.
Depression.
Depression.
Judgment.
Judgment. Jealousy.
Hatred.
Hatred.
Anger.
Worry.
Fear.
Fear.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Denial.
Denial.
Doubt.
Doubt. Good ones. Anybody else?
Murder.
Murder. Yep. We can go there.
How about darkness?
Darkness. Absolutely. Okay, we're all getting a sense of this now. All right. Okay, now I want you to tell me some life-giving energies that require life-taking energy in order to express. Think about that. Life-giving energies that require life-taking energies in order to express. Carol?
Discipline.
Discipline.
Letting go.
Letting go.
How about love?
Love.
Empathy.
Courage. And you mentioned one?
Patience.
Patience.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
Empathy.
Empathy.
Respect.
Respect.
Comforting.
Comforting.
Releasing.
Releasing.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Good one.
Fear.
Fear.
If you don't do it, what'll happen?
Okay. Okay.
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice. Absolutely. Okay. That's good. So this is why Malu, as they're called, the life-taking energies, are not thought of by the Hawaiians as bad or evil. Okay, they are the inherent part, albeit a spiritual part, of the world of form for a very divine mission. Anyone like to go to the movies? Okay, so if you go to the movies, do you ever go to a movie that's just all fun and joy and playfulness and no plot, no particular storyline? Okay, well, it doesn't make for a very good movie, does it? Okay, the best movies are ones that have some sort of a story in which the protagonist has the opportunity to learn, grow, and change, to experience forgiveness, bravery, finding their strength, overcoming a challenge, all those sorts of things. So this is why there are Malu in the world of form. Malu, as a kind of a encapsulation of what they are life-taking energies that can only exist and express to the degree that we give them our power. They get us to give them power by giving us thoughts and feelings that we think are ours. To the degree that we identify, and there's a key word there, identify with these thoughts and feelings, is the degree to which we will then act out those thoughts and feelings. The purpose of a Malu in our lives is to take our power away wherever we are unconscious till we've had enough pain, we take our power back, and we wake up. I like the analogy of a computer virus. It's something that's designed to exist purely in cyberspace, but with specific purpose, which is primarily destructive. They are not real in the real world, and yet they have a very real destructive effect in the real world. So Malu are kind of like that. They just do what they're designed to do, just like a virus. So I wanted to talk about this today because, if you look at what's happening in the world, you see many, many extreme examples of this happening where unconscious people identify with Malu energy, and yet it's a perfect part of a perfect plan. So let's look at. Thank you, Amakua, for accentuating this point. Wow. Thunder in January. Okay. How about ISIS, Islamic State? Murderous, rampaging, pillaging bunch of Malu traipsing across the Middle East, cutting off people's heads. How does this happen? How can anyone justify such horrendous actions? How do young, innocent men and women get sucked into this or any other destructive behavior? Well, like I said, Malu take people's power away wherever they're unconscious. It really is a good illustration I like to use. Any of you ever used Airborne? That supplement that helps you support your immune system. Well, they used to have this real cute little illustration on the package. They don't anymore because I went to go buy one so I could show y'all. But it was like a cartoon figure of a person, but they had holes in them. It was like a little, and it just showed these holes. I guess that's where they're missing nutrients or whatever. So I thought that was a really great illustration for what I wanted to share with you about how Malu work. So if you think about it, so it's kind of like when we're growing up, we basically have 18 years of being vulnerable to any number of things happening to us by the time we get to adulthood. And the leftover unresolved issues and wounds create these holes, if you will, in our being that Malu are very happy to fill in with whatever they can get away with. So these are the areas where Malu can come in. Probably most of the time when we are children, they pose themselves as survival skills. And this is what I've just noticed this. If someone has had has survived terrible child abuse in childhood, they might have some sort of distraction avoidance Malu, like addiction, or just cluelessness like I did. Or someone I knew actually has meanness and vindictiveness as a way to survive. But what happens is when we grow up, after surviving childhood, these things now create a very dysfunctional pattern in our lives that we have to spend the rest of our lives dealing with. Everybody kind of see that. If you look around at the people that you know, whoever have had really bad childhoods, they really have the hardest time. So this is where I'd like to kind of do a little plug for my Ohana meeting this afternoon from 2:30 to 4:30. It's going to be right here. I was going to set up my altar, but that wasn't flowing. I don't do what doesn't flow anymore. If it's flowing, I flow with it. I don't force anything. But I'm going to, and this is my service that I offer, and I haven't done it in a while because I'm remodeling my house, but I would like to, it's such an incredibly wonderful, valuable thing, this Ohana meeting, because it allows people to participate in this ancient Hawaiian tradition where we have the symbology, the principles of Ho'ala Huna that we can use to help bring balance back into our lives. And not only that, you have the perspective of all the other people there. It's like this wonderful sacred space to see people just get it. You know, it's like you have these epiphanies and these aha moments, and people are able to release, you know, and heal and just move forward. And I've just seen it happen so many times, and I just have a very firm commitment to offer this in this community as my loving service. And so this is what we will be doing here this afternoon. And one of the things that we use, one of the principles of Huna that we use in Ohana is something we call the loving mirror. And the loving mirror is, one of the things Lona used to say is kind of like when you're unconscious, it's like you're locked in a box that you don't know is there, and the only way to get out of the box is to have someone love you enough to read you the directions that are written on the outside of the box. And how valuable is it to have someone in your life love you enough to show you the energies that you're identified with, that you don't, by virtue of the fact that you're unconscious to them, you don't know it's there. Everybody else does, but you don't. That's why it's really, really valuable opportunity to learn, grow, and change. And so that's what I'm offering here this afternoon. Let's see. Get back on track here. Okay, and it's an important distinction to make is that, and something that we practice with the Ohana meeting is that Malu energy that we are identified with, and we all have these thoughts and feelings come in, is that it is not you. Any of these things that have come in, where there's areas where we're unconscious, and it just becomes a pattern, a habit, but usually they create pain. A lot of times they just create pain in our lives, and it's not until we really see it, and it's so tremendously helpful. And this is the fine distinction that I found very, very powerful in my life, and I think for other people as well, is that if somebody tells you, Karie, I see this energy that you're identified with, and it's not you. It's not. And if I know it's not me, it's so much easier to separate myself from it and see who I am, take my power back. I remember I spent years and years in the spiritual path, learning and growing, and I thought I had to achieve this oneness with my higher self that was so lofty and seemed so far away that I just can't change myself that much. I just felt like it was me that I had to change. It's not. The real me, the real you, is a divine being. Who you are is perfect. You are what God is. Absolutely. That is just the truth. You are a divine being. We are all worthy. We are all of the same equal worth, no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through. So what I would like to continue speaking about is how do we help ourselves, each other, and the world distinguish between reality and these energies that are just a part of the game of life. Okay. Okay, so here's the other important thing, is it's important for us to stop identifying with our own life-taking energies that create dysfunction in our lives, bring pain, imbalance. It's also important to do that for others as well. How many times do we look at what's going on with other people and we say, there's a bully, there's a liar, there's a murderer, there's a terrorist. Is that what's real? It's not. That's a divine being. And how important would it be for us to step back and realize that these people are just unconscious people who've given their power away where they don't know. They don't know. We have the opportunity to be a little bit more conscious, a little bit more understanding of the way the world works, and support that person in their divinity. And this is another important question I was thinking about. How do we support people in their divinity? What does that mean? It means instead of just focusing on the victims, maybe focus on the perpetrators as equally victim. That they're all just divine beings. And what is our energy? What is our energy when we see somebody being angry with us? Do we have a reciprocal anger energy come up? What is our energy when we see things on TV that are happening on the other side of the world? What is our energy? This is our point of power. This is the place where we can make a conscious choice. And believe me, this is a very powerful thing if you can pay attention to your energy. No matter who's in your life, no matter what's happening in the world, you have a very powerful role to play. And it may not seem that way. It may, Malu wants us to think that we're powerless and helpless to do anything about what's going on the other side of the world. We do have something we can do, a very powerful thing we can do. We can be conscious. We can support people in their divinity. And what would it be like if all of a sudden everybody in the United States stopped and focused on ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and sent love to their divinity? Just wonder what would happen. Couldn't hurt. Okay. So there were some, and be willing to release attachment. Attachment's a really good thing to focus on when you want to find out where the Malu are in your own life. It helps to really stop and think about where your attachments are. I've had some experience with this. It's a very powerful way to bring balance back into your life, and it's about trust. And trust is a big thing for me right now. So, anyway, I would like you to have a little exercise here. Just close your eyes, take a deep breath. Just going to ask you a couple questions. What is my energy right now? What is your energy right now? No judgment. Just let it come up. Okay, got it? Okay, now I'm going to mention to you, what is your energy right now regarding your finances? Just notice it. What is my energy right now regarding my health? What is my energy right now regarding relationships in my life? Okay, that's it. Nice deep breath. Anybody get anything interesting that you weren't aware of before? Sometimes it helps just to stop and just check in. What is my energy right now? I heard Caesar the dog whisperer ask that one time. A guy was walking his dog, and wondering why his dog was all acting up and not cooperating. And he says, well, what's your energy right now? And the guy's like, what? It's like, never occurred to him. Okay, so, and then there's also, if we notice whatever is feeling a little bit icky or, it's those subtle things that are underlying, are the Malu that really would work for us to pay attention to. And just notice it, and then ask yourself, well, what would be an Akua medicine for that? Because Malu have a tendency to bombard us with thoughts and feelings. And I love these shows. Anybody remember Ally McBeal? What about 6 Feet Under? There's probably some other ones that did this, but I remember those as they had these really wonderful special effects where they would show like two people walk into a room, and then all of a sudden one of them would go over there and just slap their face or do something outrageous, and then all of a sudden, boom, goes back to the people just walking into the room, and you realize it was just somebody's thoughts going through their head. It didn't really happen. Well, this is what happens to everybody, right? We all have these thoughts coming. We do, right? But we don't always act on them, but they're there. And this is what Malu do. They intrude, these thoughts and feelings, and we just, some people are open. They identify with them, and that's how they act them out. But most of us who are more conscious than that, we know not to, that's not me. So, okay. And that's why it's good to check in, because if you just really pay attention to what your energy is, and just don't be afraid to look at it. If it feels icky, our natural inclination is just don't want to pay attention to that. Just avoid it. But if you really just look at it and bring it out in the open and just notice it, they can't live in the light. Malu don't live in the light. They live in the dark. So, it's really helpful just to release whatever those attachments are, look at it for what it is, and ask for the Akua spirits, patience and understanding and sweetness and love and light and understanding and all those things that will help to shift that energy. Okay, so I have a few tools here. How long do I have till?
We don't, however long you started.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Half an hour.
I have some tools that I've been using whenever I counsel people. I found that they're very helpful for me, and I want to thank Debbie for coming out. I have to mention that Debbie is such a wonderful friend, and she has really had a rough time, but she's helped me so much learn how to be a good teacher because she's such a great student, and she's so humble, and she really listens and learns and is not afraid to learn, change, and grow. I just want to thank you, Debbie. And her and, one time my supervisor at work who just went through a really rough time last summer. He was in a really bad car accident. His dad was killed, and both of his kids were messed up pretty bad. He was messed up, his sister. So he had a rough time, and I had an opportunity to talk to him about a few things and help him with energy. One time he called me up and he says, "Now, what were the tools again?" And it just, I just think that's such a blessing to me. It really helps me to learn how to be of service to people. Because people have been of service to me, and so now I have the opportunity to be of service and give back. And I just think that's such a blessing. And so the first thing I would say to him is, breathe. Breathe. Just breathe. That's one of the biggest things. There's this thing I call positive projection that I found very helpful in this. I probably formulated after listening many years to Abraham. Probably most of you are familiar with Abraham, Jerry and Esther Hicks, and the law of attraction. And I use this a lot with my work. And my sister, when I was training her, she said it worked for her as well. So I mentioned it to a few people who work. Because when we go out to a job, we don't know whether it's going to be tough, or it's going to be difficult, or it's going to be easy. And the tendency is, I found with a lot of my coworkers, just to project out the worst possible case scenario. I'm not going to find a tracer wire. It's going to be a difficult locate. It's going to be, hard and all this. I thought, well, why not shift that and see yourself going out there, seeing everything flowing smoothly, and it's going easy, and you're walking away, and it all went well. Why not just do that? So that's what I call positive projection. Of course, there's also prayer. Prayer is a very powerful tool. There's one little thing I want to mention. We all know what prayer is, but one time I was watching an old Oprah show, and she had this man on there who'd written a book about some scientific experiments that he did with prayer. And he took a group of people, and I think they went to a hospital, and they prayed for certain people and didn't pray for others. And the way he defined prayer, what he would use as his prayer, was just simply to these people to sit quietly and wish this person well. They wouldn't even know who they were, but they would just wish them well. And, he was so blown away with the results, and this was documented, verifiable results with not only people, but animals, plants, even bacteria. They had results with this actually scientifically proven to affect. So never underestimate the power of prayer. Meditation, of course, is a very powerful tool. Another little story about meditation. Anybody know who Dan Harris is from ABC News? You heard of him? Well, I got to hear him on the local news show recently, local radio show, when he was here for some conference or something. He had just written a book called 10% Happier, and he comes from a family that are non-practicing Jews, and he said he was never into the spiritual, religious thing at all. In fact, he one time commented about years ago he was working with Peter Jennings, and Peter Jennings gave him an assignment to go out and do this piece about religion and spirituality. He said he just had a visceral negative reaction to that. He did not want to do that, but you don't really say no to Peter Jennings. So he did it, but he said he found out that there really was a lot of validity, imagine that, to the whole practice of spirituality and religion. And so he when he wrote this book, he wrote it because he had been having a hard time with panic attacks. And one time they actually showed on TV where he had one on live TV on Good Morning America. Right there in front of the camera, he had this meltdown where he just really totally lost it. He had a panic attack, and so he knew he had to do something. he went to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, we have some drugs we can use and give you. And he says, well, I'm already doing some drugs. I don't think that's going to help. So he found out the drugs didn't really help him much. So he discovered meditation. And he said with meditation, the people that he interviewed and researched for this book told him that just to take 5 to 10 minutes a day, just breathe, pay attention to your breath. That's it. And I remember Kathy Lewis from the news radio, which was interviewing him. She says, I have such a hard time, and I can relate to this. I've always had a hard time with meditation as well. She says, I always get these thoughts in, and I don't know what to do, and I just get frustrated. And he says, well, here's the thing. That's normal, that's natural, but every time you refocus back on your breath, thoughts come in, refocus back on your breath, 5 to 10 minutes. Every time you do that, it's like a bicep curl for your brain. Scientifically proven effect on your brain. So every time and he said he noticed immediately 2 things. One, that his ability to focus on anything that he was doing increased dramatically, and that things just didn't bother him as much. And he said, of course, then there's other, all the scientific evidence of what meditation does for you. Jerry knows what that is. Okay, so meditation. Okay, here's another one that I discovered. Oh, okay. Bruce is telling me I'm almost out of time. What, 5 more minutes? Okay, let's try to wrap this up. I've got a lot to go now. All right, there was talking to people when I was working at Cuisine and Company. It was right after I was in the middle of a breakup from my 23-year marriage, and I was in a really painful, vulnerable place at the time. Well, the girls there who were working there, I didn't know how to do catering. I'd never been in a catering company. They was expecting me to, and because I was in such a vulnerable state, a lot of them had these Malu that liked to pick on me because I was vulnerable, and they just either ignored me or picked on me. Well, there's this one girl there, I really, really liked her. I just admired her. I thought she was great. But she didn't even notice me, really. So one time I remember standing there, and she was busy doing something, and she just ignored me, and I was like, I said to her in my mind, I really like you. I would love to be your friend. And if I can help you, I would love to help you. Immediately, she looked up at me and said, Karie, would you like to help? I was amazed. Sure, I'd like to help. So I tried this out again a few other times. I was at the grocery store. I was standing in line. I only had a couple things. There was a person in front of me who had a whole bunch of stuff. And I looked at the back of their head and I said, I'm really kind of in a hurry. I just have a couple things. Would you mind if I get in front of you? I didn't say this out loud. I said it in my head. Immediately, she turned around, looked at me and said, would you like to get in front of me? So pay attention to what you're saying to other people in your head. They hear you. So something we can do more consciously. So address the energy. This is another neat story I want to share. I promise I'll make it quick. In my job, I used to work in Virginia Beach. Now I work in Norfolk. I do a lot of lower middle class neighborhoods, a lot of Black population there. And there's a lot of kids out there, and I just love the kids. And I have to tell you this one story. I drove up in my car going through this neighborhood, and there's a bunch of kids playing out in the street, and they were shooting hoops and everything. Well, I noticed this little kid, like 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. He saw me coming, and instead of walking away as I was approaching, he goes towards the middle of the street. And I thought this was really odd. Why would he walk towards me? Well, as I continue moving, there's this, a bigger kid. He's like, 10, 11 years old. Well, not only is he walking towards the middle of the street as I'm approaching, he has this look on his face of real, macho indignation, defiant, on his face. And he's just like right up against me as I'm driving by. I looked at him like, what is that? So I went down to the corner and I thought about that. I thought, I wonder if I should go back. Well, I noticed that the street circled around up the street. So yeah, I'm going to. So I went back, circled back around. He was out there playing, shooting hoops. He was kind of on the side of the street. I pulled right up on him, rolled my window down. He turned around, saw me there, and I went, "Hi." You should have seen the look on his face. Oh my God. That Malu was gone. And I hope that made an impression, because sometimes that's all you have to do is just be there. I've done this with some other children that I've come across. I just let them know that I'm noticing and I care. I'm here, I see you, I support you in your divinity. So this is just another one. And then of course, self-identity, Ho'oponopono. You guys have heard of this? Self-identity. This was made famous years and years ago, before I even knew anything about Ho'ala Huna. Kahuna in Hawaii. It kind of flew over email back in the day. This kahuna in Hawaii was working in an asylum for the criminally insane. I guess they hired him for some reason, but it was really terrible conditions. They had a high turnover rate. There was a lot of the prisoners weren't able to leave because they would become violent, and people didn't come to see them. And well, he sat in his little office and didn't really even come out, but all of a sudden everything in the place began to change. The inmates became less violent. They started having more visitors. The turnover rate dropped. And we went, "What are you doing in there? That you're causing so much change without even doing anything." And apparently he learned from his kahuna, who was a woman, by the way, this technique called self-identity, Ho'oponopono. Now in Huna, we learn Ho'oponopono, and that really means conflict resolution, to bring back into balance that which is out of balance. And what self-identity, Ho'oponopono is when you look at everything that's within your awareness, including what you see on TV, and the idea is that because we're all part of the all that is, that anything that's out there that you see is a reflection of what's in here. So you take complete responsibility for that. So he was taking complete responsibility for all of these inmates and everything they did, and he would practice this thing that goes, "I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you." And he did what he called clearing all of this negative stuff out of his responsibility, his realm of awareness. And Joe Battelle, who's in the book The Secret, actually wrote a book about it called Zero Limits, where he went to Hawaii, found him, brought him to Texas for like a year, and did workshops and stuff, and they have documented where a lot of people use this technique. So it's really powerful. I use that one quite a bit. Okay, last one, I'll leave at this. A lot of times when I'm talking to people about their stuff that's going on, they'll tell me, "I am my own worst enemy." Well, you know what? How about being your own best friend instead? I call it BYOBF. BYOBF. Come on, people. BYOBF. Be your own best friend. Okay. All right, I guess I'll just stop. Thank you very much.